Some of you may know that I am an international leadership consultant. I love getting to help people to lead well. That's the whole theme of my Facebook Live. And my purpose in life is to encourage and to empower others, people like you, to live, lead, and finish well. So I hope this helps you to do that. That's something I get very excited about. I'm very passionate about pouring into people from all different ages, from people from 17 and 18-year-olds to in their 80s. I was actually coaching someone that's 83 years old just the other day. Some coaching on their cells and those kind of things. It was very interesting, and a person that's been very, very successful. So if you've joined me tonight, I wish you'd let me know just by posting your name, and that way I know you're with me tonight. I'm going to be talking to you about a pretty interesting subject, and some of you may be thinking, what does this have to do with leadership? What does it have to do with leading well? Well, hopefully we'll be able to connect the dots somewhat tonight. So I think my wife is going to be helping me out on posting the notes. Kevin Lynham, our creative director for Quest the Keys, he is actually out of town and on his way in. So let's kind of get into the subject. So I'm going to be talking to you about lessons from the NFL draft. So let me give you a little bit of background here. So I've been what you call an NFL draftnik. By the way, my buddy Leroy, thanks for joining me. I've been an NFL draftnik since 1983. Now, what is a draftnik? It's a person that's kind of, very passionate about the NFL draft. Now, the NFL draft is once a year in the month of April. All the teams get draft picks, and they get to pick players that played college ball that's eligible to play in the NFL. And so they want to get the best players they possibly can. It's a very, very big deal. So I've been keeping up with this since 1983. In fact, I'm a big New Orleans Saints fan. I can tell you, in 1983, the New Orleans Saints had the #1 draft pick, and they selected George Rogers from the University of South Carolina. Now, I can't tell you what I had for lunch today, but I can tell you who the New Orleans Saints picked in 1983. That may say a lot about me. I don't know. That's scary. So, but there's some very valuable lessons, I believe, that we can learn from the NFL draft. Something I've been doing for the last number of years is I've been having an NFL draft party, usually at my home. Sometimes it's at my son-in-law, Justin LaBello, when I was in Louisiana. I'd have that with a bunch of our coaches. My brother's been a coach for many years. We'd have it at his house. So just a lot of fun. And we would have a contest, a competition, who would get the most picks, and you'd score it with points and that kind of thing. So it was always kind of neat. So this past Thursday night, we had our NFL draft party. And so my son-in-law, who's normally a part of that, Justin LaBello, who's a police officer for Flower Mound PD, he actually was able to go to the NFL draft because it was held in Dallas. So he bailed out, did that. I'm so glad he got to do it. But we also had Jason Poe, a friend of mine that attended, not attended the NFL draft, he attended the bigger party at my house. And so Jason Poe was there. Appreciate Jason being there, and also Jake Gerald. And so we had a 3-person, competition to who would be the champ. And well, let's just say I didn't finish second or third. We'll just leave it at that, all right? And actually, my granddaughter, Abby Grace LaBello, she's 13 years old, and she served as our commissioner. She's been our commissioner, I think, for the last 3 years. So her job is to make sure the picks come in, and she tabulates all the points and stuff. So it's always a fun type thing with her. So let me talk to you a little bit give you a little bit of an example. One of the things is a way of just learning from a bad experience. I'm going to talk to you about what I believe was the greatest NFL bust of all times. Now, what I mean by bust is someone that was picked very, very high. They paid a lot of money, and they didn't pan out. And actually a person that I know. And it was the quarterback for the Oakland Raiders. They picked Jamarcus Russell in the #1 in the NFL draft. Okay, now I knew Jamarcus Russell because he was the quarterback for the LSU Tiger football team. And he played on the same team as my nephew, Luke Sanders, who was a linebacker. He started at linebacker for LSU for about 3 years. And so he got to play with Jamarcus for a few years. And Jamarcus actually won the Sugar Bowl, was the MVP for the Sugar Bowl. I think that was in 2006, or the season 2006. And I actually got to meet Jamarcus after that game just briefly. This guy, 6'6", 265 pounds, and he plays quarterback. That's a very large man to play quarterback. Well, the Oakland Raiders end up drafting him as the number one pick for that year, 2007. He signed for $62 million. And he ended up washing out the league in 3 years. He ended up being, I think, the greatest bust in the NFL of all times. Well, listen, that was a painful experience, I'm sure, for the Oakland Raiders or anybody else that would go through that. So what are the lessons that we can learn? What are the things that we'd want to look for when we add a player to our team or we add a person to our company? Because I think the things I'm going to share with you tonight, not only do they apply for in the NFL, but I believe they apply to our lives personally, the type of people we want to be for a company or organization to hire us. But also, if we're in the hiring position, we have responsibility. I'm interviewing people right now. So I'm in the interview mode. I'm going through probably 20 different resumes and working through and having phone interviews, bringing people in. So I'm looking for good people. And these are the kind of things that I look for that I'm going to share with you tonight. They're the same type things that NFL coaches and general managers look for. Okay, so I want to go through lessons from the NFL draft. So here's the first one. I think there's 10 total. There's 9 plus a bonus. So the first one that I want to share with you, that, and by the way, if you join me, I want you to post so I know that you're with me, okay? So the first one I want to share with you is this, that you have to be, or you need to be, hungry as a player. So when you sign this contract, it's not that you've arrived at that point, you feel like, I've got my money, okay? No, it's not that way at all. They're paying you for what you're going to do, not what you've already done. So you want to bring a player on your team, or you want to be the type player that you're still hungry, you're driven, you're thankful for the opportunity, but you're not satisfied. You want to give the team, the organization, the company more than they bargained for. You want to be better than expected. So I want to add someone to my team that's hungry. They're hungry. They want to get better. They're not satisfied with the status quo. They didn't just arrive, but they want to prove themselves, and they're very driven to do that. They want to honor the team or the organization that selected them. So that's the first one. The second one is coachability. They need to be coachable. They need to be a person that a coach can speak into them to help them to even get better. Okay? A coach can take a person that maybe they're at a 90, but they can work on it week after week, month after month, year after year. They get better and better in what they do. But if they don't want to receive coaching, that's going to be really difficult for them. I want to be coachable. Someone that's coachable is also humble, right? But you want to be coachable. So when you look at adding someone to your team, make sure they're coachable. If you join a team, you want to be coachable. You want to be the person that they go after because you are coachable. And then you want to have someone on your team that has high character. Someone that's a person of integrity, that takes total responsibility for their life, for their action. A person of their word. If they say they're going to do something, they do it. Someone that shows up on time for meetings. Someone that follows through on their commitments. And I could go on and on. Someone of very high character. You want that type person on your team. You don't want a person that you can't trust. They violate the rules. They violate team rules. They violate the NFL policies or the company policy. You want someone that has very high character. Okay? And the next one I'd mention to you would be they need to be smart. And I'm not talking about book smart, but they need to be smart with their time. They need to be smart on the field. They've got an IQ. They've got football intelligence. For you, it would be someone that you've got an IQ. I'm not talking about just being brilliant smart, but someone that's savvy, that's someone that's got good instincts. Okay? That type of smart. That type of smart. And then the next one would be, and this may seem a little strange, but so I would say someone that can be available. All right? So in the NFL, what they talk about someone being available is someone, they're not always hurt. They're not nicked up. They can practice and they can play in games. If you can't practice and play in games, you're not going to help the team that much. That's just the bottom line. Now listen, in the work life of things, that would be something that, hey, if you're sick, that's one thing. You go to the hospital, okay, we understand it, but if you got a headache, you still show up. If you had a rough night or stayed up late, you're available. You're available to the team, the organization. You've got to be available. You can't be someone that doesn't show up half the time. That's very, very important. You can't get so sidetracked on family issues and so forth that you're not available to your organization or your team. Same thing in football. Very important lesson. So NFL teams will look at how many games did this person miss? Did they play hurt or not feeling well? So they're available. And then another one would be, do they have the skills and talent to do the job? You know, at the end of the day, they got to have talent. You can't bring people on your team, they lack the talent to do it. And what I would say to you, when you're looking for people, don't focus so much on what they can't do, but rather focus on what they can do, all right? Now, some of you may have watched this past Super Bowl, the New England Patriots against the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, arguably the greatest quarterback of all time is Tom Brady. Now, I'm a Drew Brees fan. I'm not saying he's better than Tom Brady, but he's awfully good. But one of the things that in that Super Bowl game that New England Patriots did, they threw a pass to Tom Brady. You typically don't throw a pass to your quarterback. He really kind of embarrassed himself. He looked pretty bad, but he couldn't catch the ball. Don't throw the ball to Tom Brady. You're not paying him to do what he's not good at doing. Let him throw the ball, not be catching the ball. So when you're looking for talent and skills, focus more on what they can do, not what they can't do. That's how you add good people to your team. What are they really, really good at doing, okay? And then let me mention to you that they need to be a team player. You know, if they're not team-oriented, it's about being this diva, being about them and what they want, that's going to be a problem. You know, that team locker room, they follow the guiding principles, the team culture. They fit in well with what's going on. You want people on your team that makes everybody else better. They're kind of the multiplier. Their ability and their teamwork makes everybody else on the team even better. You know the kind of guys I'm talking about. On the team or the organization you're a part of, do you make everybody else on the team better? Or is it more just about you being the superstar or making other people better? You want a team player that makes everybody on the team better. I think that's important. And then another term you may not be familiar with is what I would call ascending player that has potential. And what I mean by that is that they're just now they're good at what they do, but you see the upside for them. They've got huge potential. They're what I call an ascending player. Many times in organizations when I'm brought in to help them find, you know, in fact, I'm trying to find my successor right now with an organization, and I'm looking at a couple candidates out of about 20 that I'm looking at. Two of those I would refer to, they're ascending players. They don't have a lot of experience, but they've got lots of upside and potential that they could end up being really, really good down the road. That's what I'm talking about. Someone that they've got upside, they've got potential, an ascending player. For you want to look at sometimes for adding people on your team or your organization. Do they have that upside? Someone that you can pour into. They've checked the other boxes, but they may not have a lot of experience, but you can see where they can be really good someday. It's what I would call an ascending player. And then another one I would mention to you is, do they fit well with the team's scheme, the philosophy, and approach? You know, you can have someone that can be super talented and they can check all the other boxes, but if they're not a good fit for the team because of philosophy or approach, that could be a problem, right? So you want to look at that. Is this person a good fit for what we're about? Do they fit the culture? Do they fit our scheme, our approach, and how we do things? Like I said, I've seen some people that are absolutely phenoms, but it was oil and water. It was just a terrible fit within the organization. So you want to make sure they're a good fit. Do they have the skills? Do they have the experience? Do they have the mindset that would fit well within that team or that organization? So something for you to consider there as well. All right, I think I've covered 9 of those. So let me give you a 10th one. This would be a bonus, and this would apply to quarterbacks. If you're looking at adding a quarterback on your team, in essence, the quarterback is the leader on the field. So when you bring a quarterback on, you want to make sure that they're a leader. Now, how would that apply into the business? It would be if you're bringing a manager on, a director level, they need to have some leadership skills. If not, the last thing you want to do is put someone that's an expert level at something, but you put them over a team of people that they're expected to lead, but they're good at doing, but they're not good at leading or developing. That's a train wreck waiting to happen. I could tell you many horror stories where someone was promoted to a position that they really weren't gifted to do. They may have been an excellent technician, an excellent craftsman, but all of a sudden they were promoted to be over the technicians or the craftsmen, but they had no leadership skills. That's the problem. So if it's a leadership position, they need to have leadership skills to go along with that. So those are 10 characteristics, qualities you want to look for when you add someone to your team. That's from the NFL perspective. By the way, the NFL also stands for not for long, okay? Which means most people don't last in the NFL that long, and you won't last long at your company unless you're hungry and you have high character and you're smart at what you do and you're a team player and all the things I mentioned. If you want to have longevity there, you need to work on some of these things in your own life. When you're looking at adding people to your team, if you're a manager, a hiring manager, these are some things that you want to consider. I consider every one of these things before I make a hire. So I think these can apply to your work as well. Now, let me tell you where I think mistakes can happen. All right, here are some things. Let me just say some landmines that you may want to avoid in the hiring of people or bringing people on your team. So let me just mention some of those when mistakes are made. The first one I would mention would be there's no clear vision for the person you're looking at bringing on. So let me just spell it out this way. When you're thinking about bringing someone on your team, make sure you have a very clear vision of how that person would fit in, okay? Have a clear vision. The clearer the vision you have for the type person you're looking for, the better chance you have of finding that person. So have a clear vision. Don't try to force a square peg into a round hole. You'll regret that. You may say, man, but they're so good in some of these other, you'll regret it. Make sure you have a clear vision and how that person fits in. If you don't do that, you're going to make a mistake. That's going to be a landmine. Don't let a person's talent cloud your view on all the other things. You let the talent, you become so enamored with their talent, you forget all the other things. Have I made that mistake before? Yes, I have. Did I learn some things from it? Yes. I'm not going to hire somebody just on talent alone. It's not going to do that. It ends up being toxic for the organization. They end up not fitting in. They may make rain happen a little bit, but in the long run, they end up costing you. And then one other thing I'd mention to you related to avoiding a landmine, there's always some risk that you take when you bring someone new on your team for sure. But just make sure that you don't get so, again, I'll use the word enamored with a person's upside. You don't factor in that person's risk, the risk factor. If a person's a very high risk and they've got some reward, they've got some upside, but just be careful that you count the cost. You really calculate that to say, is this really worth going for in a person? I've seen this happen a lot. It really becomes a long shot for this person to work out because the risks are so great. And if you'll start asking good questions, you can figure that out. Now, there's some good reward there, but the risk is so great you neglect looking at the risk because you're so, let's just say you're the halo effect, if you will, of what this person may be able to do down the road. So those are some lessons I want to share with you from the NFL draft that I think can apply to you personally. Would you be the type person that someone will want to draft and put on their team? You need to ask yourself that. Make yourself go through this and see if you fit these 10 things in your own life. And then if this has helped you tonight, if this has been beneficial to you, I would encourage you to share this with some others. That's a way that you can help get this message out to others. So just hit the share button. And if there's something that really spoke to you in this Facebook Live as I talked about the lessons from the NFL draft, I want you to post that. And then we usually select one that will repost that out to let people know that this came from this person as the biggest takeaway or a quote that you want to share from tonight. Again, I encourage you to share this with your friends as well. Well, listen, Until next week, I'm going to be leading well. I want you to lead well too. Take care.